Hey, welcome to Parents Under Construction podcast. We're so glad you could join us. I'm Michael Jarquin, and my friend and mentor, Dr. Ed West, are recording our conversations for the purpose of supporting Christian parents with biblical solutions to child rearing. Our goal is to provoke parents to change ahead of their children. It is what is necessary for this thing called parenting that God has mandated. Again, welcome, and we hope you get something out of these discussions.
Hi, I'm Ed West. I'm a retired pediatrician, and I've been in the middle of families trying to raise children for 40 years or more now. I have a lot of experiences with many, many different issues that have come up with children, and have worked through things with parents, often with difficulty, often with success, sometimes with disappointment. But I enjoy talking about the things I've learned, and I enjoy dealing with new issues that come up. And I hope that this will be a time when you can consider things that go on in your life as a parent, and perhaps work through issues that would be successful. And I'd like to be part of that.
Yeah, I'm Michael Jarquin, and well, I'm Doc's friend. And in a lot of ways, Doc's been a mentor to me. We met probably, we want to say 14. It's been 14 years probably since we first met. And I was in the middle of raising kids. We met at church. We had moved across country from California to Charleston, South Carolina, and we were looking for a church. And Doc happened to be at a church that we had selected to visit. And we just continued to go there and got involved in Bible class and happened to walk into Doc's class. I guess the rest is history. But as we were talking the other day, Doc, we were thinking about talking about the heart. And as I was thinking about the heart, a few different scriptures came to mind. One is that the heart is deceitful and wicked. Who can know it? And the other is, I think it's a proverb. Foolishness is caught up in the heart of a child. And thinking about those two pieces of scripture led me to think about Jesus' heart. And in Hebrews, it says that looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. I bring that last one up because as a parent, when you're raising children, there's just so many pressures. If you're married and with children, there's the pressure of your marriage, there's the pressure of work, there's all sorts of outside pressures. And of course, raising kids, especially if you've just had your first kid, which can be a hard transition into having your first kid, not knowing a whole lot, depending on what kind of support you have. I know for us, we didn't have much support in the way of family. We don't have family around. So we basically raised our kids by ourselves. But I think at the heart of the matter, speaking of the heart, is really committing to the process, committing to the parenting in a way that understands that developing the heart of the child is what you will reap later on.
In the Bible, the heart is a description of a part of a man that is not physical in many connotations. It is the essence of who the man is. It includes ideas of his mind, his emotions, and his decision-making, and is the seat of things like his intentions, his attitudes, his ideas, his dreams, and aspirations. All these things are present, apparently, as potentials in children, and parents begin to know about it because they have it in themselves. They know about their own thoughts and their own ideas and where they want to go with things, and this would be in the parent's heart. You were mentioning some important proverbs just now, and one of the ones that is memorable to me is Proverbs 23:26. Give me your heart, my son, and let your eyes delight in my ways. This is, I think, probably spoken by a loving parent who sees, if I could just get a hold of your heart and take it along with me when I go, that I think I would be able to do everything I have to do. And I think you would turn out the way I hope you turn out, the way that's in my heart that you turn out. The child has his own heart. The child the child's heart, as you said, has issues when he comes into the world, according to Scripture.
Yeah.
And one idea of understanding parenthood is that you're trying to lead the heart into a direction that launches it toward success in life. In Hebrew theology, it was understood that children were born with two inclinations, an inclination toward righteousness and an inclination toward evil, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And that education was the solution, and the parent was the teacher of the child who would teach the child the right way to go. And this teaching would begin very early. As the child responded to the parent's teaching through the years, the child's inclination would more and more be toward righteousness. And therefore, the ultimate goal for parents in the Bible was to bring their children to insight into the law of God. And this led to what is known as the bar mitzvah for a young boy, where he becomes a son of the law, as opposed to under his parents' authority at that point. He comes under the law of God, and he guides his life according to the law of God. So this is the idea in the Old Testament of child rearing.
And this is a rite of passage for the Hebrews.
Still is today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And in Christian traditions, it's very common for children to be what's called confirmed in many churches.
That's kind of a Catholic thing, right?
It could be, but there are other denominations that do confirmation too.
Mm-hmm.
And confirmation is a way of testing what you've learned over the last dozen years of your life. And are you ready to assume responsibility for your own place before God and to be accountable to God now? Yeah. Prior to that time in the Bible now, the parent is kind of like the overseer and the tutor for the child. Children are like a gift in the Bible and parents are like stewards or caretakers.
Yeah.
And they have responsibility before God for what they do.
Yeah, you mentioned that the children are a gift, and I can't remember where that comes from exactly in Scripture.
That's Psalm 27.
Okay, so I think you're right, and later on it begins to talk about them as arrows in a quiver.
Yeah,
right, which is interesting because arrows don't fly right if you don't. I would imagine in those times during Scripture, you would have to make your own arrows. You would have to pick out the right stick and forge it and put feathers on it or whatever it is. And so you're molding it, you're shaping it, and then you're practicing with it. And so your responsibility with your children is to treat this gift like something that you have to work at to get right, to get it to fly right.
You mentioned a scripture from Jeremiah, the heart is deceitful and desperately sick.
Yeah.
Who can understand it? One of the assumptions that most parents, perhaps without thinking, assume is they can understand.
That they can understand it.
Their own child's heart. And I believe this is a gift from God too, is I believe that parents want to understand their child's heart, and they have the capacity through their connection with God to have a special insight into this particular person in a way that perhaps doesn't happen anywhere else in life. But I think the parent of a young child commonly seems to have intuitive insight into what's going on with the kid.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, mothers of 6-month-old babies who aren't even talking speak of what's wrong with the baby when he's crying.
They can understand the cry.
Yeah, and they understand what's going on with the baby here or there, and it's just interesting to see it. And it's not a theological point so much as a natural point, that they just see it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I was thinking about a young boy that I take care of. He's 4 years old, and I can just see the switch in him when he is not, I want to say compliant, but teachable. Mm-hmm. I can see the switch. It's as if he's ignoring everything I'm saying. He's looking away from me instead of at me. And at that moment, I have to decide the next step. Am I going to continue to try to get this child to comply with me, or do I need to do something else?
And you're speaking now of the importance of this in day-to-day child rearing is the assessment of the child almost moment to moment in your conversation of trying to say, is this child connected right now or not to who I am? I'm his parent. I'm the person who is his teacher. Mm-hmm. Does he see me this way? And if he doesn't see me this way, my job at that moment is not to teach. My job at that moment is to connect.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you said something really important there was connection. And what is the connection? Well, it seems like heart to heart is the connection.
Absolutely. You can see it in the newborn nursery with the mothers bonding with their children. And the bond turns out to be actually the basis of parental authority, as opposed to, let's say, I'm bigger and stronger than you and I've got a deeper voice and I can growl at you and throw things around. You and I really are close, and it really is a pain when we're not.
When you start growling and throwing things around.
Yeah.
And that breaks the connection.
Yeah. And so do you want to keep the connection? If you want to keep the connection, then you go along with the way I'm directing you. It's the theory of parental authority from the Bible. Jesus said, if you love me, you'll keep my commandment. And this is actually the thought out of the Old Testament of God's requiring the children of Israel to love him and fear him.
Yeah.
In the same sentence now, in Deuteronomy, in the same sentence, love me and fear me. And the fear is remember who I am, and that I'm the one who directs your life.
That's actually a passage of scripture that I recently came to mind, and I wanted to know more about that, because I think I saw inside of myself that I don't perfectly fulfill that, right? And so the question became,
as a parent?
Well, just as a person in general, I heard the scripture in my mind that says, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. Okay, well, I don't always do that. And so what does that mean? Does that mean I don't love him? So I dug deeper into the scripture only to find out that in the context of that was, well, Jesus was getting ready to go to the cross, and he was letting his disciples know, and he was washing their feet, and he was showing them how much he loves them and how much he wanted to be connected to them. And in order for this connection to be maintained, these are the steps. You've got to keep the commandments.
Yeah, the disciples were participants in the relationship.
But he knew that they weren't going to be able to keep it.
And children don't have any insight at all into relationships for years.
Right, so this would have been Jesus to the disciples, parents to their children.
Yeah. And so it's before a child could literally, you may get a Father's Day card from your 3-year-old, but if you do, it's because you made it or bought it.
Or your mom, or the mom helped him make it.
He didn't come up with the idea because he doesn't see things that way.
Right.
He just lives here.
But that's training. That's training the child.
That's right. And the insight comes eventually.
Yes.
And the reason for obedience begins to shift from the fact that you're bigger and stronger and I'm so small to I really care about you and I want to make your life easier. Wouldn't that be a great reason for your child to obey you? Yeah.
Well, when you were just talking about that, I thought about my wife asking me, she takes care of 2 toddlers. She's been taking care of them since they were babies, infants. And she asks me, how do I get them to share? And it's funny, we've been parents. We've raised 4 children, have 2 others that aren't our children that we've helped raise. It's easy to kind of forget how this works. And then you go into it again and you have to sort of restudy again. A lot like studying mathematics in school. If you were out of mathematics or let's say algebra for some time and then you go back to it, you knew it, but you need to freshen up. And so she says to me, how do I get them to share? And I said, well, share with them. If you share with them, you're teaching them how to share.
That's a wonderful example of the heart and the parent dealing with the heart of the child.
Because the child doesn't want to share.
Well, of course, that's because of the wisdom of the heart from the Bible about children, that foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. Foolishness would be, I know what I ought to do and I'm not going to do it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do something else. That would be what's called foolishness in the Bible. And this is the nature of children. I had this wonderful experience when I was teaching in China in the public school in Beijing. I was teaching on English as a second language, basically is why I was in the school. I was teaching the English word share. I said, do you know the word share to the second graders? And they weren't familiar with the word. I said, share means I have something and I give you some of it. I could see they were thinking about it. The trouble in China is, in that time when I was there, is most of the children didn't have brothers and sisters because it was Chinese policy not to permit more than one child in a family, which is an awful thing to think about.
More than one child in a family?
Yeah, because they had too many people in the population. And so the government was trying to reduce the rate of growth in China.
If you're enjoying the conversation, I think you'll get a lot out of Doc's book titled How You Feed a Cat. That is, How You Feed a Cat, because I told you to feed the cat and you listened to me. This book is full of Doc's experiences as a pediatrician, father, and husband. It sheds light on the role of a parent in the child's life and how we as parents need to change ahead of our children. You can find the book on Barnes & Noble's website or in the app, and the link is in the description below.
So most of the children didn't have people to share with in the home. The knowledge of sharing was not something that really was part of their lives, apparently. I don't know. So it was Easter time, and I told them that last night the Easter Bunny had come into the classroom.
Wait a minute, they know the Easter Bunny in China?
Oh, we told them about it.
Oh.
Yeah, we told them about these. They wanted to know about American culture, and we talked about it. I said, so the Easter Bunny had come into the classroom last night, left a surprise for the children. They were lined up probably about 30 children in about 6 rows of desks. I said, in each row, inside one desk, there's a surprise. Now everyone look in your desk and see who has it. Well, all the desks were opened up immediately, and in each row, somebody said, hooray, and stood up with a plastic Easter egg. And all the other kids looked at him and said, lucky stiff, look what he got. How come I didn't get one? You could see it on their faces. And so after the excitement and the disappointment of the moment, I said, okay, now the kids who got the surprise, I want you to share with the children in your row.
Oh. Uh-oh.
And all of a sudden the tables were turned, and the guy who had the egg was the big loser, and you could see it on his face. You could just see it on their faces. What? This is mine. This is mine. And the other kids say, well, give me some. Give me some. You could see it on their faces. And I said, come on now, do it.
Uh-huh.
Well, they didn't like it, but they started sharing with the other kids in the row. Of course, everybody got a little piece of candy out of the egg, and everybody was happy when it was over with, I suppose, except maybe the guy who gave up the egg. So anyway, I said, see, it's really hard to share. It's not easy to share. Okay, so what's the lesson for children? Well, out of the Bible, the lesson for children is to train them. It's not to give them the motivation to share. It's to train them to share. On the other hand, what you said about with your wife, show them how to share by you sharing, as you said, is the other part to it. Now, this is where you get to the heart. What I was doing was the behavior. The behavior is sharing, but the sharing comes out of the heart. Impulse to share comes out of the heart. If the only reason you're sharing is because you have to share, as soon as you don't have to share, you won't want to share. You want to hold on to it.
Right.
But suppose it came out of your heart to share, and your wife, out of her heart, wants to share. And because of the closeness of the child and the parent, the child begins, just like the parent, the child picks up from the parent the value of caring and wanting to share.
Yeah, I think they probably feel the connection.
Yeah, they do. And so if he's been trained to share, he knows what to do because he's been trained to do it. And then he has the impulse to do it. Now he becomes a human being who shares.
Interesting.
That's how it works.
Yeah, interesting, because I think sometimes as parents we can get frustrated that the child doesn't have the motivation to do something. No,
that's true. It's true. And so that's what training does. Training tells him how to do it. When you do it, this is how you do it.
Thank you for tuning in to today's podcast. We hope that you've gotten something out of our discussion. If you've enjoyed listening, please support us by subscribing to our show and rating us. Bye for now.